Alright everybody, so welcome back to another Friday Night Magic tournament at Lost Legion Games and Comics in South Charleston, West Virginia. My name, as always, is Zachary Evans. I'm here by myself tonight, but we'll be joined by various players throughout the night as they finish up with the tournament. Let's go ahead and get right into the action in our Round 1 feature match. On the left, stream regular Alec Myers piloting his trusty Junk Aristocrats list, off to a strong start with a turn 1 Doom Traveler into a turn 2 Skursdag High Priest, and his opponent Joe Lewis playing American Flash. His deck a little bit more tempo based than the American Control decks, though I think the difference between them is almost entirely arbitrary. But Joe is playing Thunder Mauls and Restoration Angels, so I call it Flash a little bit more than the more controlling type decks. A little bit of business here about the tournament. We do have 20 players, so it will be 4 rounds in the cut to top 8, including a special appearance. This is the second time that someone has made the trip down from parts unknown. Our first guest, of course, Allie Browning, a couple times already, coming in from Wellston, Ohio. Today we have Vinny Lucenti, who's driven in from Columbus to play along in the event, so we'll have him on the camera a little bit later. And again, thanks to him for making the trip, and thanks to everyone else for both watching and supporting the stream on our various forms of social media like Facebook and whatnot. So meanwhile, back to the match here. Two counter spells taking out 2 consecutive Blood Artists. Joe digging for more business with an Augur of Bolus. So Alec follows up with a Cartel Aristocrat, and in response to the Aristocrat, which does resolve, Joe's going to go ahead and use the burn side of a turn and burn to take out the Skursdag High Priest before any shenanigans can be instituted. So Joe's drawing here pretty good. He's stalled the ground out. He's put his counter magic and removal spells to good use here, and is just slowly digging for a win condition. I'm going to go ahead and chump out the Cartel Aristocrat and just take the one from the Doom Traveler. And Garrick Relentless makes an appearance. It's going to stick, it appears. Now I'm going to make a Wolf token, and Joe's going to cycle his Think Twice. So it looks like a Thunder Maul coming. Going to kill Garrick. And looks like Joe attacking in to Garrick, and then before blockers, Alec's going to sack his Doom Traveler to his Aristocrat, making a 1/1 flying token that's going to chump out the dragon. And there's a tragic slip, sacking. What did he sack there? I apologize, I did miss that, but we do have a flip Garrick now. Thunder Maul has been dealt with. Alec in a pretty good position here, though he just has 2 cards in hand. Going to serve in with both of his 2/2s. Knocking Joe down to 6. And there is a Sorin, Lord of Innistrad. Likely going to make a Vampire token. So Joe in a bad spot here is going to need a Supreme Verdict to clear out the board. But even then is going to be in a tough spot. So the Sorin Vampire immediately sacked to Garrett, so Alec can go search up what I imagine is an Obsidat. So Joe in quite a spot here, as even Supreme Verdict's not really going to help him out that much. As we know, Obsidat's going to come down and start draining him directly. No, it's a Blood Artist. Interesting. I guess, now that I think about this a little bit more critically, there's a definite chance that Alec does not have the Obsidat in his main deck. I know he plays 1 copy in his sideboard. So Joe going to get back up to a more reasonable life total of 10 after casting a Sphinx's Revelation for 4. We'll see if he drew any answers to the situation. Digging for a verdict, digging for a D-sphere. taking the cut that wasn't offered, as is his right. I believe earlier Alec fought the 2/2 with killed one of his own creatures with the Garrick, or possibly the Augur Bolus, I should say. So Joe, considering his options here, in a pretty rough spot. Looks like he's going to need all of his mana, as he does drop to 8 off of an untapped Steam Vent. So we know Alec has a Blood Artist in his hand. There he picks up a Gavany Township, but not enough mana to both cast the Blood Artist and pump his team. So first things first, we're going to make an emblem, serve in with the 2 Grizzly Bears. Joe likely leaving up at least 1 Restoration Angel here. No, it's a Snapcaster. Snapcaster targeting Turn and Burn. So you can choose one or the other out of the graveyard. You cannot fuse on Flashback. There's a Restoration Angel. In response, Alec is going to Tragic Slip the Snapcaster. Something is going to get burned, though. And in response, Alec going to activate his Gavany Township for the blowout. So there is 2 damage marked on that Cartel Aristocrat, but it will survive now that it's a 3/3. Joe going to chump out the wolf, but still takes 4 from the Aristocrat based on the Gavany token, as well as a Sorin emblem. So Joe's still in the spot here. Likely needs to take out Garrick, I would think. No, choosing Sorin instead. Sorin having done his work already by generating that emblem. I'm going to see a D-Sphere coming up, possibly another burn spell. No, it's an Augur Bolus. Digging for a Searing Spear if we can find one. Just a rewind. So Joe adds a Sacred Foundry to his board tapped, and passes the turn back. There's some questions in the chat about whether or not the Angel should be dead due to the attack from the Wolf. The Wolf was a 4-powered creature due to the token, to the Gavany Township activation and the emblem, but I'm assuming, based on the way that the game played out, these guys would not have missed that, so I'm assuming that the Angel either never blocked or he sacked it before damage. That is one of the unfortunate circumstances about not having access to the audio out there. I don't know exactly what happens, but there we see a Blood Artist after combat. With the sack outlet already in place, is going to allow Alec to machine gun Joe, for his last 2 points of life. So Alec takes the first one. We move in the second game. See if Joe can draw even. So again, not sure exactly what the how that turn with the Wolf and the Angel played out, but like I said, 2 experienced players. I'm sure they knew how big that Wolf was, since they took the appropriate amount of damage from the Cartel Aristocrat on the same turn. So either way, we move to the sideboards. Conveniently enough, both of these gentlemen played in our Star City Games IQ that was held last week. So, and both of them made the top 8, so I actually have access to their deck lists, which you can find over on our Facebook page at facebook.com/ZachSellsMagic, or at least a link to that. I'll head over there now and see what these guys might be bringing in. In this particular matchup, obviously we already talked about Alec. He does have a copy of Odds of That in his sideboard. That's coming in. He also plays 3 copies of Deathrite Shaman, 2 Sin Collectors, 2 Golgari Charm, and 2 Appetite for Brains. I know the Sin Collectors will likely come in. Having seen Alec play this deck before, he brings in a fair number of cards in this matchup, but none more important than the Deathrites and the Sin Collectors, which help expedite his clock, as well as answering some of Joe's troublesome cards, the most important of which is Supreme Verdict. Now let's take a look at Joe's list. Blue, white, red, flash. In his board, we have a Ratchet Bomb and 2 copies of Is It Staticaster, which we've seen in previous weeks do a ton of work in this particular matchup. 2 copies of Rest in Peace, which will obviously come in as well. Then a couple counter spells, Dispel and Negate, which will probably not come in. He does have 2 copies of Renounce the Guilds, which would be interesting to see if those make an appearance, as they do hit Cartel Aristocrat, they do hit Voice of Resurgence, as well as Sorin. He has another copy of Turn and Burn and a Wear and Tear. So likely just going to see the Ratchet Bomb, the Staticaster, and the Rest in Peace, and then Joe will determine if he has any other somewhat dead cards in this matchup. Do you want to take this opportunity, like we do each and every week, to thank the fine folks here at Lost Legion Games and Comics in South Charleston, West Virginia, who let us broadcast their FNM each and every week. So if you watch this from the comfort of your own home via the internet, it's all thanks to the good graces of Lost Legion Games and Comics. They got 4 locations here in West Virginia, all of them a few hours away from major metro areas like Columbus, Cincinnati, Roanoke, Blacksburg, Lexington, Morgantown. So if you're ever in the region for business or pleasure, make sure you stop by Lost Legion for good prices, great people, and you might even see my weird self here broadcasting magic from a broom closet. Also want to thank InkedPlaymats.com for hooking us up with this awesome custom double playmat that you see under our feature match camera. If you'd like to have your own custom playmat made, either a single or a double, or if you'd like to purchase some original art playmats at a reasonable price, head over to InkedPlaymats.com. Good group of guys there, easy to work with, so definitely check them out. And finally, if you're looking for Magic singles, don't forget to go to AffinityForCards.com, where the more you spend, the more you save. Obviously, we try to encourage them to support their local game store, but you and I both know that you're not going to find all the cards you need for all the decks you want to play in your local display case, and when that's the case, head over to AffinityForCards.com for some of the lowest prices on the internet. Use coupon code LOSTLEGION, all one word, for 5% off your first order. And thus completes the infomercial portion of the Lost Legion FNM broadcast. There were some people talking in the chat about the kavu.ru site, which has been making a lot of appearances lately in the world of Twitter and whatnot, as it basically helps you take a look at your lifetime magic results. That's kavu.ru. Interesting site that someone put together. So you can see your lifetime win percentages. Mentioned that on the Facebook page this week, but I'll go ahead and make a note to mention it again. And we're back into the action here as we see turn 1 Doom Traveler from Alec, which is exactly where his deck wants to be. Well, the best possible scenario for Joe, a turn 2 Augur Bolus revealing a Supreme Verdict, so Alec knows that he can't quite overextend into the board state as it is. Let's see, a Blood Artist here. Is he willing to throw one of those away? He's in an awkward spot where he can't really afford to not extend and not force Joe into at least using his verdict. There's an Aristocrat So no play from Joe. He just passes the turn back, and Alec's going to play his third land and serve in with his dudes. He's going to chump the Doom Traveler with his Augur. Alec just trying to force through 2 damage there. Not sure exactly what his line is here. And there's an Is It Staticaster. And Alec cannot Abrupt Decay it fast enough, so the Abrupt Decays come in from the sideboard as well. And a Pillar of Flame taking out a naked Cartel Aristocrat, and Joe serving in with Augur of Bolas Beatdown. Just the way he drew his deck up, I'm sure. And Alec replaces it with another copy. We know Joe has the Verdict in his hand. Unlikely that he's going to pull the trigger on that now. And we see Alec fanning his hand 2 Tragic Slips, a Blood Artist, and a Lingering Souls. So Joe content to play Draw Go here, obviously sitting back on some kind of counter magic or at least reactive spells, possibly a Restoration Angel. And there is a Sin Collector. So if this resolves, that Verdict's going to go away. Though at this point it would be unlikely that it would resolve. No, it does stick, so we see an Angel, a Sphinx's Revelation. Alex is going to let the Verdict stay and take the Revelation. In the turn, Joe is going to flash in the Angel, bounce his Augur, and unfortunately push a Rest in Peace and a Thundermaw Hellkite to the bottom. It's rough enough whiffing off the Augur reveal. It's even more frustrating pushing 2 of your best cards to the bottom. So Joe's serving in with his Flyer. Content to race at this point, as his Augur effectively holding off Alec's offense as it stands. Alec's stuck on 3 lands here. We do see a Blood Artist, which is a little bit of insurance against the Supreme Verdict, as he will at least get some incremental damage off of it. Sin Collector gets binned. Take 2 from the Aristocrat, activate Tragic Slip, say goodbye to the Angel. So when the dust settles and the Blood Artist activations have been accounted for, Alec at 16, Joe sitting at 14. Snapcaster lets Joe get rid of the Blood Artist thanks to a flashback Pillar of Flame. And these guys are just playing, just swinging haymakers here. And there's the front half of Lingering Souls, likely to resolve, and it does, as we know Joe, light on counter spells. Snapcaster chumping the Cartel Aristocrat. So Joe in a spot here. Do not know what 2 cards he has in his hands. We're going to chump the Cartel Aristocrat again. So Joe not in the best of spots. He has whittled down Alec's offense to just 3 power guys. Tragic Slip cast the hard ways enough to finish off the Augur. Joe draws a Cup Island and just passes back. So attack drops Joe down to 9. I guess Alec debating whether or not he wants to flash back his Lingering Souls. I'm going to see a Garrick here? No, another Cartel Aristocrat. And there's a Verdict. So we're back to square one. Joe having successfully stabilized at 9 life. And there's a Voice of Resurgence off the top. We know Alec has a Lingering Souls in his bin, which he's flashing back now. So post-Wrath, Alec already has a formidable offense back on board. So Joe down to just 2 cards, one of which is a Hollowed Fountain, which comes into play tapped. Desperately in need of a Thundermaw in this spot, though we know one of his 2 copies is on the bottom of his deck thanks to that Augur. So Joe dropping down to 5. And there's a Garrick Relentless. Apologize for the glare. See if Joe can draw something off the top. He is dead as it sits, as Alec can just activate his Gavney Township. There's War Leader Helix going to take out the Garrick. Put Joe back up to 9, so he's going to live through this turn. And he's going to cast an Is It Staticaster, which is going to, the last card in Alec's hand is going to be a Tragic Slip. So I'm not sure exactly what happened there with the Tragic Slip. I guess there were some stack timing issues. I think Joe flashing that in during the beginning of Alec's turn to avoid Morbid, and Alec not realizing that. But with the attack, even with the chump and the activation, Gavney Township effectively negating the Staticaster. And Joe down to 2 life. He needs a sweeper, and it's not even going to be good enough. Well, actually, no, it wouldn't be, because the voice would come back as a 1-1. The Gavney activation would make it a lethal 2-2. So I guess Joe's looking for a Sphinx's Revelation here. Anything less, I just don't think gets there. Joe's trying to do the math and figure out if there's a way out of this. I'm not sure what the last card in his hand is. Sphinx's Revelation for 2, putting him up to 5, hoping to draw a Verdict. So Joe playing to his outs here. Needs a Verdict. So Augur. Augur, try to find a Turn and Burn. Looks like a Syncopate. Nope, Azorius Charm. And that's going to be enough, as even with the chump and Azorius Charming one of the tokens, an activation from Gavney Townships makes the other 2 2/2s that get through lethal. So Alec Myers in 2 games wins the round 1 feature match for tonight. We do have 15 minutes remaining in the rounds. We'll step outside and see if we have another match we can slot over. If so, we'll come back with that. If not, who knows what's going on.